Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 6:07 a.m. East Coast time, Sunday, June 3rd. It is also my 23rd birthday, so I'm excited about the day today. And we're going to cover a 9-game slate today in the MLB. My favorite size slates are between the 7 to 9, maybe 10 games. It's just a nice amount of games where you can actually make some pretty good or pretty bold stands based on the fact that there will be higher ownership, but not insanely high ownership that you're killing yourself if you miss out on a 3 or 4 game slate when somebody's 80% owned a pitcher, or a 15-game slate where nobody can get up that high just because there's so many games. So this 9-game slate, I do like it. Depending on where ownership comes in, I will be making some bold stands. So we're going to go through. I have 5 pitchers jotted down as sort of these earlier interests, people that kind of pop up into a player pool right after I look through some initial data and initial research, and then later in the day over on Patreon, I write my article. Again, today's my birthday. I'm going to try and get that article out in terms of being a full-length article, like my 1,000 to 1,500 word article, but it might be more of a snippet of an article. But either way, just know that the research has been done in that article, and it will be rankings and analysis with that. So you can get that link below on Patreon as well as this sheet, and then there's a night games slate, or one that just starts at 4 in the afternoon. I also have that one in terms of the projection sheet or the stat sheet on there. So that all said, let's get into this video. If you can, hit that like button. I appreciate that. And hit the subscribe button. If anything, little birthday gift. Hit the subscribe button. Helps me out. I know there's going to be like 1,000 or so of you people watching this on the weekend. And I know that every single person is not subscribed. So take a couple seconds. Just hit that button. Greatly appreciate that. So we'll go through just some stacks that kind of stand out to me. There are most of the Vegas odds are out outside of Minnesota and the White Sox, probably due to the fact that there's a AA or AAA pitcher coming up and starting today. But we'll go through some of the spots that I think there's going to be leverage opportunities based on ownership. We'll go through some of the spots that I early on find interesting. And I do find this slate interesting because the two most popular spots, at least for me in terms of price-wise, where I'm looking at pitchers, have players right around there. So I imagine one player is going to garner more of the ownership than the other because that's just how it naturally happens. So starting at the top, 12-3 Max Scherzer. This is almost a spitting image of the last time that he pitched, right? I think Garrett Cole was also on that slate. He was 12-4, now he's 12-3, and he was facing Miami, now he's facing Detroit. So the matchup obviously gets a little bit tougher when it's not Miami out there in terms of the team having a little bit more power in Detroit, but not that much more. So Scherzer at 12-3, he's too cheap. Yes, I'll say that. People are trying to tell me when he was 12-4 against Miami, at his price, he's too expensive. No, there's a guy named Cortez Jr. who was, for the Yankees, who was $4,000, who let you get there, and you only spent $16,000 on your pitchers. When that happens, that's the same as spending or paying for two $8,000 pitchers. He's not too cheap when there's cheap options on the slate, which we'll get to. There's about 1, maybe 2 cheaper options that'll allow you to get up to him and still get really good bats. You're not just paying for $2,000 bats on Draftkings and a couple $3,000 bats. No, you can still get really good bats with him. 12-3, I love Max Scherzer today. He's obviously a huge favorite, minus 310 favorite, and he's not even the biggest favorite on the slate. That'll be the next guy that we'll talk about. Detroit strikes out the most out of anybody on the slate. They have the least power outside of Miami on this entire slate. Max Scherzer striking out almost 40% of righties. Max Scherzer in this Detroit lineup will likely see 6 righties today, potentially 7 righties, but it doesn't matter. He strikes out 28% of lefties, and the lefties in this lineup are not that scary. It's Kristen Stewart and Nico Goodrum batting from both sides of the plate. Likely will bat lefty today. At the end of the day, this guy's going deeper into the games than anybody. If he doesn't get into the 7th inning, it's surprising these days. He's efficient with his pitch counts. He's a 10-plus strikeout pitcher every single time he goes out there. And if you're telling me it's a favorable matchup, it's even higher. He gives up a home run every 16 innings, and there's nobody in this lineup today that really worries me in terms of getting to Max Scherzer. So Scherzer at his 2.95 Sierra is the first guy in this player pool. The next guy in is the next guy on the list in terms of salary, 11.9 Garrett Cole. So here's the thing. When Scherzer was 12.4, Garrett Cole, I think, was like 11.6 or something. So there's actually a decent price difference, $800 difference between the two. So when you have $800 more, you can get 1 more elite bat, or you can get 2 more better plays at hitters, right, when you have those extra $800 to spend. So that's why ownership on Scherzer was a little bit smaller, as well as it was a bigger slate in terms of the games. I think it was like a full 15-game slate. That being said, now it's only a $400 difference, but Garrett Cole grades out very similarly to Max Scherzer outside of one really important thing, which we'll get to. 2 really important things, I guess you can say. So he's a 320 favorite. He becomes the biggest favorite on this slate, barely edging out Max Scherzer as of right now. He has the best Sierra on the slate at a 288. And he does the same exact thing in terms of striking people out. He has a 36 overall % K rate to Scherzer's 33. He strikes out 35% of righties to Scherzer's 38. But then he strikes out 38.5% of lefties, which there will be some pretty big lefties in this lineup for Seattle, at least 2 in the first 5 bats, if not 3. So that's definitely an advantage for Cole. The downsides for Cole are today he does give up power to lefties, and like I said, there's going to be 2 to 3 in the Seattle lineup, and the fact that Seattle does have power. They do strike out similar to Detroit, although Detroit strikes out more. I'm just trying to compare Scherzer's and Cole's matchup. So I do favor Scherzer. I mean, the pricing difference is only $400. I can find that. I favor Scherzer a lot. And depending on where ownership is, if Scherzer is, let's just say Scherzer comes in on this type of slate at a 25% ownership in some of the bigger tournaments, and Garrett Cole is at 15%, I'm still going to be taking Scherzer. I don't think that's a big enough gap between the two. I think Scherzer hits his 30-plus point ceiling in his matchup way more than Garrett Cole does in his matchup, mainly because Garrett Cole has the ability to give up 1 to 2 home runs today, right? He gives up 1.4 home runs per 9 compared to 0.3 that Scherzer gives up. And those are in average matchups, right? That's taking the overall average of his numbers. So if you take into account that Max Scherzer's matchup today is above average in terms of being hitter friendly, well, that home run per 9 should go down. You take into account that Garrett Cole's matchup today is probably more so around neutral for him, but the power is above average in this lineup, so you might go up to a 1.5 home runs per 9. So it's a little bit scary. I do like both of them. Now, if Scherzer is 28% owned, and due to the fact that they're so similarly in price, everybody goes to Scherzer and doesn't go to Cole, and Cole is sub 10% owned, and Scherzer's pushing 30%, well then yeah, I probably, emails always pop up, I probably then consider fading or going to Garrett Cole, because there is an opportunity that he does score outright more than Scherzer, even if Scherzer has a good game. And then there's also the opportunity that he can absolutely go for 35 and Scherzer goes for 20, and then it's a really good move. I do think that happens a good amount of the time, but it's going to depend on ownership. I'm going to be sticking to Max Scherzer as often as I can in this matchup today. And I do not think he's too expensive. I think he's too cheap. I think he's realistically $700 to $1,000 too cheap for this slate, especially when you have options down low that allow you to get there. Going down to the next person that I'm interested in today, I'm gonna do more of a write up on Lewis Thorpe. He's making his first start today. Decent strikeout stuff in the minors. I think he had like 88 strikeouts and like 14 starts, so it's nothing spectacular. It's not like a Brendan McKay, which 100% locked Brendan McKay yesterday. If you read the article, I only had one guy that I was really interested in terms of pitcher wants, and then I had like some other options. And that was Brendan McKay. He was the number one pitcher that I wanted by any means. Had that out at like 1 in the afternoon, or if not earlier. So he did well. And now Lewis Thorpe is not him, right? Lewis Thorpe had like a 5 ERA, which I think is a terrible stat. But even if you have a 5 ERA, you likely don't have that great of a SIERA in the minors. And if you're getting 88 Ks over 14 innings of work, just trying to do that right now, so you're averaging about 6 Ks in appearance, which is actually pretty good, but when you factor that out over 9, it's a little bit less, and when you factor that out coming to the majors, it's not there for a guy who's 8,400. The matchup is going to be very favorable against the White Sox, which is good, so I'll do more of a write-up in the article. As of right now, I could just tell you that he's too expensive for kind of his production in the minors. If this was yesterday, you had Brendan McKay at 8,400, I'd be completely fine paying for him. McKay was only 7,600. Sure, is a bit smaller of a slate by like a game. But Lewis Thorpe at 8,400, he's not as proven, I would say, in the minors, and he doesn't seem to have as much flash. He's really being a spot starter here because Kyle Gibson pitched in that game that went like however many innings Kyle Gibson got used, so he has to miss his start today. So that's just a note on him. Jake Arrieta would be the third player in my player pool, and this is just due to the fact that he's facing Miami today. There's really nothing other than that. There's two things here. He's a favorite who is going deep into the games. He's averaging over 6 innings per start. That's pretty good, especially in this mid-range. You're not going to find anybody else getting 6 innings per game this year outside of your Max Scherzer, Garrett Cole, Lucas Giolito tier. Not even Shane Bieber is averaging 6 innings per start. Not John Lester, not Blake Snell. It is Jake Arrieta. So he is the guy who is averaging the second most innings per start on the slate, only behind Max Scherzer. And when you factor in once again that that's an average matchup, take into account now that he's going to be going up against a very below average team in Miami today, who strikes out right around average in a pitcher-friendly ballpark. So the fact that Jake Arrieta gives up 1.57 home runs per 9 is concerning, but in a pitcher-friendly ballpark makes it a little bit better. Now, I'm not dying to get here, right? The strikeout stuff is absolutely disgusting. 14% against lefties, 21% against righties. And that's disgusting, meaning very bad. He walks 9% of batters. He gives up power to lefties. So the two lefties, whether it's JT Riddle or Curtis Granderson that'll be in this lineup, should benefit there. But keep an eye on the lineup. Maybe there'll only be one lefty in JT Riddle. Maybe there'll be a switch hitter. But either way, the ballpark's going to help. The matchup is going to help. And the fact that he at least limits the power, that 1.57 home runs, to just lefties, and you'll get mainly righties in this Miami lineup. So that's the third guy in my player pool. Nothing crazy that I really like about him. If I'm getting to Max Scherzer, I'm probably not forcing in a Jake Arrieta and spending $20,400 on my pitchers or $20,500 on my pitchers. So as of right now, Jake Arrieta would be a guy that I get to if I go for a more mid-range build, which is very scary on this slate when it's super top-heavy at pitcher with Scherzer, Cole, Giolito, and even Bieber. Blake Snell at $8,000 is way too cheap. Look, I know that Blake Snell has kind of gotten a little bit broken as of late, I guess you can say. Not going deep into the games, kind of getting blown up early. The Yankees just, they like 2 starts ago, they got him out of the game in like a third of an inning. He looks kind of broken. His walk percentage has come up. It's now at 8.8%. His home run percentage has come up. It's now at 1.25%. But he's $8,000 and he's a lefty going up against Texas. This Texas team against lefties is absolutely terrible. We saw it yesterday with Brendan McKay. He looked really good. He went 6 innings, really limited, no damage at all. So Texas team struggles against lefties. Now Blake Snell is struggling overall, so this is a really dangerous spot. He's a pretty big favorite at minus 190. The thing is, I just think he's way too cheap. I think he's a $9,000 pitcher, at least in this matchup, and you're getting him for $8,000. Now, do I pair Blake Snell with a Max Scherzer? It's tempting, but do I want to spend $20,300 on pitching on a slate where we're going to get Cleveland facing a Gabriel Yona, where we're going to get Milwaukee facing a Steven Brault? You're going to be getting Houston is going to be facing Marco Gonzalez. So you get all these favorable spots. I'm not sure I get there, but Blake Snell would be the 4th pitcher in a player pool that I have interest in. And now you just get a range of mediocrity, right? You get $7,700 Anthony DeSclafani. The Cubs are another team that I should have listed. This guy's giving up so much power to lefties. I think that the best play on the slate potentially today is Kyle Schwarber. I think that the ownership will follow that, but he's a lefty leading off. He's going to get at least 5 at-bats, maybe 4, or at least 4 at-bats, maybe 5 or 6. And Anthony DeSclafani just gives up power to lefties. Anthony Rizzo becomes a nicer play. It's going to be in Chicago in the afternoon, which the ball is just going to fly out there, especially if there's any sort of wind. So yeah, why do I want to pay $7,700 for that? Brad Keller, $7,500. Brad Keller is the definition of just consistency and being very average, right? He has a 5.3 Sierra, so that's not good at all. But he goes 5.88 innings pitched per start, so he's getting into the 6th inning a lot. He goes the 5th deepest into games on this slate, which is pretty surprising. But look, he doesn't have strikeout stuff. He just doesn't give up the home run. He walks guys 11%. He just doesn't give up the home run. 0.54 home runs per 9. He's pitching in a ballpark that should favor hitting today, but not by that much. That makes me go, oh, I really want to stack Toronto. And I'm the biggest Toronto's truther out there, right? We had Biggio hit a grand slam yesterday. By Guerrero hit another home run. These young guys out there are making this team really, really good. Just Brad Keller, the one thing that he knows how to do is limit damage from the home run. And if you're not getting home runs in your stack, it's going to be very hard to win. So I don't have interest in Toronto, but I also don't have interest in $7,500 for Keller. If he was in the 6K range, low 6K, 5K range, then yeah, there's interest, but not $7,500. Trevor Richards versus Philly. It's tempting. He would probably be the 6th guy in my player pool. He does have success against lefties, which there's going to be a Jay Bruce, there's going to be a Bryce Harper in the middle of that order, at least from the 2 through 6 hitters. You can have 2 guys that you should have success against. But today, guys like Rhys Hoskins, King Gurley, they should be in fine spots. He does strike out 24% of righties compared to 17% of lefties. I'm not going to get to Trevor Richards for the mere fact that he's giving up 42% hard hit percentage and 43% fly balls. His 1.11 home runs per 9 is bound, his 0.97 home runs per 9 is bound to come up when you're giving up close to 40% hard hit percentage and close to 40% fly ball percentage. So I just want to get there for 7,300. Then you have Marco Gonzalez against Houston. I believe Houston has the highest total on the slate. I'd rather stack with Houston. Jesse Chavez, people are going to be chasing Chavez after his last start where he went like as efficient as possible, getting like 30-point game in like 70 pitches. That's not going to happen again. I'll just be the first person to say that. That's just not going to happen again. Steven Brault against Milwaukee. Rather stack Milwaukee. They have like a top 3 total on the slate. Zach Davies against Pittsburgh. This is a spot where I don't even care that Zach Davies is a pretty decent sized favorite at 152, like the 5th highest favorite on the slate today. I want to stack all of Pittsburgh. What is Zach Davies good at? Really, for the most part, he's not good at anything, right? He doesn't give up a lot of hard hit contact, but he has a 5.25 Sierra. People are finally realizing that he's a really bad pitcher. Walks 7% of batters, and the thing that I really like is he has a 219 ISO to lefties. He gives up the 5th highest power, or the 5th highest power rating from the extra base hits to lefties. And this Pittsburgh team, as we all know, they generate a lot of power from their lefties, right? You have a Dickerson, you have a Moran, you have a Josh Bell. There's going to be a Brian Reynolds. You have like 5 guys in the top 6 or 7 bats in this lineup that are going to be lefty today. I really like that. I like Pittsburgh as a cheaper potential stack today that has a lot of upside. The 5th player in my player pool is Aaron Sanchez. This is our Cortez Jr. from the other day when Scherzer was on the slate and we had a $4,000 Cortez Jr. You have to pay $400 more for Sanchez. Scherzer is $100 cheaper, so it's really a $300 difference today in overall price. Look, he's $4,400 and he's a favorite today. He's facing a Kansas City Royal team that is the 4th lowest power index on the slate at a 159 ISO. They strike out a decent amount of the time, close to league average at 23.3% of the time. He's not good, but he's $4,400 for a reason. 5.44 Sierra, walks 12% of batters, 1.39 home runs per 9. The things that are nice, though, he gives up 50% fly balls or 50% ground balls, only 28% fly balls, 36% hard hit percentage. Those are good bad ball stats. Doesn't strike anybody out, right? Gives up average power to both sides of the plate. At 4,400, you're not going to have a lot of upside in terms of this guy's going to go 6 innings and get me 7 Ks. No. What you want out of Aaron Sanchez here is maybe he hits the 5th inning, so he's win upside, he's win eligible because his team is the favorites today against the Kansas City Royals and Brad Keller on the other side. So maybe he goes 5 innings, gets me 3 or 4 Ks, stays out of trouble, picks up the win. I get 12 points out of him. That's all you need. I mean, you got like 18 points out of Cortez Jr. the last time out at 4,000, and that was crushing it. Can Aaron Sanchez go out there today and get you -5 points? Absolutely. He's 4,400. He's blow up prone. He only averages 8 fantasy points a game on the year. Can he go out there today and get you 12? Absolutely. His average is 8. So, yeah, he's 4,400. He allows you to get to Scherzer very comfortably. Outside of that, there's really nobody in this low range that I want. Gabriel Yana, you should be stacking every single Cleveland bat against him. I believe Cleveland has the highest total on the slate today as of right now. At least on this 9-game slate. Obviously, the Yankees and Red Sox, 16-game total on that one, 8 runs totaled projected for the Yankees is insane. Zimmerman versus Washington. So, yeah, the low-end options here are really, really bad. They're either in difficult matchups. Zach Davies, I imagine Gardner's some ownership at 5,900. I'd rather go full-on stack Pitt if he gets really heavily owned to get some leverage. Sanchez is the only guy probably below 8,000 that I have any interest in today. Trevor Richards a little bit. Brad Keller at his price point, he's a very, very safe pitcher, but at his price point, there's no way that I get there at 7,500. It's just way too much money. So that's where I'm at right now in terms of my pitchers. It's Max Scherzer, Garrett Cole, Jared Arrieta, Blake Snell, and Aaron Sanchez. I do have some outside interest in Trevor Richards, but those would be the 5 guys that I would list. I will have an article probably weeding out some of those, maybe adding in 1 or 2. I will have a fade option. I will have my top options that I do like, ranking them for pitchers, ranking the stacks that I have interest in early on, and no ranking order are the Cubs, the Pirates, the Indians, Milwaukee Brewers, and the Houston Astros. Those 5. So that's where I'm at right now. Hope that this helps early in the morning. Hit this video with a like before you leave. Follow me on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. The article will be up on Patreon later today. There's a link down below to Patreon. You can support me over there. And before you leave, if you watch the whole video, subscribe and comment down below. Appreciate it. Peace out, gang.